Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us for this webinar. It is the latest in a series organized by Coronation. And my name is Wale Famirewa. I'm delighted to be hosting today's event. And today we are diving into a topic that I think is very important: safeguarding your health, the importance of critical illness insurance. And I think as we navigate the intricacies of this subject, our aim really is to provide not just information, but insights that will empower you to make informed decisions about your health and financial well-being. Indeed, that is one issue that I think we will take away from our conversations today. It's not just about addressing your health, it's also about addressing your financial well-being. And I'm sure that our speakers today will do justice to this topic. This webinar is more than just a discussion. It's a platform for us to share knowledge and to build a community. And we're honored to have our esteemed panelists and experts who will delve into the nuances of critical illness insurance. They will share their wealth of experience and shed light on its significance in our lives. But before we embark on this journey, and for us and for me to also invite Executive Director at Coronation Life, Mr. Adeboale Adesono, to deliver his welcome address, I'd like to just set some ground rules, if you like, some small housekeeping. This webinar is being recorded for your information, and if you would like to chime in at any point, please use the Q&A field to deliver your messages. We look forward to receiving your feedback and, of course, taking your questions and as we go along. So without further ado, I would like to now invite Executive Director, Technical Operations at Coronation Life Assurance, Mr. Adeboale Adesono, to deliver his welcome address. It's over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Famirewa. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to this very important webinar on safeguarding your health, the importance of critical illness insurance. My name is Adeboale Adesono, and I'm the Executive Director of Technical Operations of Coronation Life Assurance Limited. I would like to express my gratitude to everyone on this call today for accepting our invitation and for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend this webinar event. In an era marked by unforeseen challenges and uncertainties, safeguarding our health has taken center stage. The impact of critical illness can not only be physically and emotionally challenging, but also, as we know, financially devastating. Our goal today with this session is to provide you insights on the importance of critical illness insurance in securing your well-being and that of your family. Today, what we've done is to gather an exceptional panel of experts who will be sharing their insights, their knowledge, and their experience in this field. I'm sure that by the end of this webinar, you will have a better understanding and appreciation of why critical illness insurance should be a fundamental part of your financial and health planning. In a world where prevention is paramount, today we are here to empower you with the knowledge that you need to make informed decisions about your health and also your financial future. Today, we encourage you to engage actively. We encourage you to ask questions and to make the most of the opportunity to enrich your understanding of the subject matter today. I also hope you find this webinar both informative and inspiring. Once again, I welcome you all and thank you very much for being a part of this essential discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adesono, for setting the tone. And I do believe that we've heard him loud and clear. This is really designed to be an informative engagement, but also interactive. So we certainly look forward to everyone chiming in at some point to deliver your comments and, of course, to ask your questions. We have a very distinguished panel of experts who will be doing justice to this subject of critical illness. And so as we get right into it, I'm happy to now introduce our keynote speaker who will be helping us take this further as we get into the business of the day. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to invite to this virtual stage our keynote speaker. He is none other than Mr. Abdul Rashid Akolade. He's currently serving as Assistant Director Underwriting and Marketing, Life Operations at Africa Reinsurance Corporation. He has an illustrious career, spanning well over 2 decades. Mr. Akolade has been a stalwart in life insurance and reinsurance underwriting. His commitment to the industry has seen him hold pivotal roles, including the head of life business operations at Continental Reinsurance and Deputy Director of the West Africa Insurance Institute. He's a fellow of the Chartered Insurance Institute of Nigeria and an associate of the Nigerian Institute of Management. His educational background is also equally impressive, holding an MBA in finance and marketing, and he's also author of several insurance textbooks. So without further ado, I'm happy to invite now Mr. Akolade. It's over to you, sir, and we look forward to listening to your keynote
thank you, Wale.
message.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Coronation Live, for this rare privilege. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Please permit me to share my slides. I think I've been disabled.
Yeah, I'm sure you will be given access in a moment. You can try again. Please try again.
Okay, thank you for that. Is still disabled?
Okay, it will be fixed in a moment. It will be fixed in a moment. Perhaps maybe as we're trying to get that fixed, you could just give us some high-level insight into what we'll be expecting from your message today.
So, once again, good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I think I've been given access.
Okay.
So, 1 minute, I'm trying to put it in. I don't know if everyone can see it.
Yes, we can see it clearly. Please go ahead, sir.
So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, Coronation Live, thank you so much for this rare privilege. The topic I have been invited to speak on is safeguarding your health, the importance of critical illness insurance. For the purpose of this presentation, we've come together. We've come up with 5 objectives for the audience, especially those from the non-insurance sector. The first objective of this presentation is for us to understand what health insurance is generally all about. Secondly, at the end of the presentation, we should also understand the scope of cover for critical illness insurance. This will go a long way in telling our audience how to go about buying a critical illness insurance. The third objective we have for ourselves is in 2 folds. For those of us who already have information about critical illness insurance, this is an avenue for us to create more awareness about critical illness insurance. And for those who are yet to get awareness of critical illness insurance, this is an avenue for us to know what critical insurance is all about and how important it is to us and our family. The fourth objective is to know the real importance of the critical illness, which we've come up with about 4. At least those are the basic ones for us to take an informed decision. And lastly, regarding the objectives of the presentation, is to also have an overview of the Nigerian insurance market experience on the critical illness insurance product. Ladies and gentlemen, to make us achieve those 5 objectives, these are the agenda we've set for ourselves. Number 1 is to introduce ourselves to our health insurance business, as an aspect of insurance. Thereafter, we go into introduction to critical illness insurance, and we move on to the origin of critical insurance, all through to a product which is similar to it or which was in existence prior to critical illness insurance, and it is no other product except what we call permanent health insurance, and so on and so on. Because of time, we conclude the session with the importance of critical illness insurance. I hope I am clear and loud.
Yes,
before I
we can.
continue?
We are following you very, very well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We promise you it's going to be a very interactive session, and of course, it's going to be very interesting too. So the starting point for us is to go through this popular saying everybody knows about, which is earth is wealth. So if we think deeply, what is behind this saying is that you can only think of you being wealthy if you have, good health conditions. So that's to tell us that the primary key thing to all of us is to ensure at all times that, we are healthy. Unfortunately, too, we may not be able to have full control of that, but we can put in some measures in case, we are facing one or two forms of health challenges. And that is the insurance aspect we want to look at it to see when we are faced with one form or the other of health challenges, how can insurance quickly come in, to salvage the situation. So let's go with this as we move on through the paper presentation. Now, before we go to critical illness insurance itself, we also want our audience, especially those from the non-insurance sector, to have an overview of what health insurance is all about. So in a layman perspective, we can simply say that health insurance is an insurance policy which makes provision for the payment of medical expenses and, of course, by extension, the cost of surgical operations. So you could limit to medical expenses alone, or you can also make it to extend to cover some aspect of surgical operations for the insured person as a result of certain illnesses or sicknesses or injuries as covered by the insurance policy. Why? First and foremost, the insured person here has to do with the person who has subscribed to this health insurance from the insurance company. And of course, we do not cover all illnesses. It will be illnesses that have been stated as covered, in the policy. I give us an example. If you are traveling by here, you have the options of either you go with economy class or business class, and as the case may be, you can go with the first class. So you need to choose which one are you going with. That is what we are saying regarding the illnesses to be covered. So the list of the illnesses may be endless, but you have to choose the one you think, especially in terms of financial affordability. Now, once there is health insurance in place, and we are faced with such challenges, the compensation from the insurance company under the health insurance may take two forms, essentially. It is either, depending on the arrangement, you first and foremost have the expenses settled, then the insurance company will reimburse you. Or you can also put arrangement into place whereby the insurance company can make the payment directly to the provider of the medical services. This is health insurance in brief. Let's quickly go to critical illness insurance itself. I have started with this kind of picture for us to see how serious what we call critical illness will be. If we see anybody in this state of health, two things will be coming to our mind. It is 50-50. Either he or she survives, or the person goes to meet our ancestors. So if you have ever had an experience to see someone in this kind of situation before, you know what it could mean to be faced with a serious health challenges. So what critical illness is coming to do, one is probably, before it gets to this level, we have access to finance, we have access to compensation to get us treated so that it doesn't get worse off up to this level. Or peradventure, if someone, as a result of negligence, doesn't get to do medical checkup and suddenly he or she finds himself or herself in this kind of situation, then instead of going through the route of raising funds from the public, once there is critical illness insurance, the insurance company will, like Coronation Life, will step in to make provision for the fund necessary to get the person treated. Now, what is critical illness insurance itself? We've come up to simplify it so that we don't speak much more about our technical terms for the purpose of the audience, especially those who are from the non-insurance sector. So we can put as this: a critical illness insurance is an insurance product which makes provision for the payment of a certain sum. That is the amount you have covered against, which will be released to the insured person, that's the person who has subscribed to the critical illness insurance, in case he is diagnosed with any of the critical illnesses as stated in the policy, and of course, there are some other requirements that are supposed to be met. Before we go on, let's try to explain some of the wordings in this definition. The first thing we need to know is that most likely, or in most cases, better still, the payment is usually done in lump sum to the insured person once he or she is diagnosed. Then secondly is the fact that it's not just diagnosis, because there's a possibility, for instance, for one to have a wrong diagnosis. I don't know, I think I once read about late Ganifa Emi, who later passed on because of a critical illness I wouldn't want to mention here, but it was given a wrong diagnosis for typhoid when he first consulted the doctor. But it was later on that he was able to get to know what exactly was wrong. So those are kind of requirements we are looking at here. If someone is diagnosed, there's always a need to be on the safer side to have a second opinion of diagnosis. So the benefit payable in a nutshell too will be such that it has been chosen by the insured person. We are still going to see it. If time permits us, we intend to show you a specimen copy of a policy document from Coronation Life, where we can see the variation of the benefit to be chosen. But for ease of administration, for us to just understand the scope we are trying to say here, we can have, say, a minimum amount ranging to a maximum limit from which we can choose from. For the purpose of this presentation, what I've come up with is just to say that we have a minimum of 500,000 to go with as the benefit, and of course, a maximum of 20 million naira as an example. But let us also get to know this. If I have chosen to go with 500,000, unfortunately, if the critical illness in terms of the treatment, the cost to get it treated is more than 500,000. The insurance company will not pay more than 500,000 because we have chosen that amount, and it was on that basis the premium had been computed for us to pay. So it's all about us as an individual person. If you want to go into critical illness, my personal advice is that we can get to know what is the average cost of treating some of these critical illnesses that we want to buy. For instance, we take, say, renal failure or kidney failure. So we can look around to see, though in most cases, we've also seen that insurance companies will have done this assignment for us to say they've consulted some hospitals. And of course, this is the average cost of treating critical illness condition A, B, C, D. And of course, that should also be our guide. But if you want to do it on our own, we can also have an idea of what is the average cost of treating any of the critical illnesses that we may want to buy. So that will guide us as to what amount of the benefit we want to purchase for ourselves or for our loved ones. So in some instances too, it is also possible to have a critical illness insurance being arranged in such a way that a lump sum of money is not paid out. It could be in piecemeal. I earlier mentioned of a possibility of wrong diagnosis. So you will have policies designed to release a certain percentage to get a second opinion, then followed by the cost of treatment. So it is also a choice for us to go with a policy for critical illness insurance under which a lump sum of money can be released once someone is diagnosed and it is proven to that effect that truly he or she is having the critical illness being diagnosed of, for a lump sum of money to be released as a benefit to him or her, or it may be released in piecemeal. Just for our knowledge sake, it can come under different names. It doesn't have to be critical illness, as an example. We can have the cover in the name of dread illness or disease. It can also be called serious illness. We can also have it coming as trauma insurance, etc. So the typical critical illness wording, of course, may also impose certain days before the insurance company will pay. Why the need for this? It is also possible, number one, there's a possibility of wrong diagnosis, do not forget. Secondly, some may have a critical illness that within 1-2 days, it could be reversed. I was in a session with a few medical doctors, I think about 3 years ago, and that was the first time I was hearing that if someone has a stroke, and they said that if such a case is brought to them within 24 or 48 hours, I couldn't remember vividly, but they said it can be reversed. So that's to tell you that it is possible for reversals of some of these critical illnesses to take place. So, and that's why we need to give few days. It's not waiting for a longer period, but just like a window period to say, is it truly a stroke that the person is having? Is it truly kidney failure, or is just stones in the kidney, and so on and so forth? So the period may be referred to as survival period, or otherwise what they call the deferred period. This is just a specimen way of telling us how the benefits may become payable under a critical illness insurance. We can have the insured event stated, listed, and of course, what percentage of the benefit is payable. For instance, heart attack, if someone has a heart attack, you are choosing 1 million naira as benefit, and all sum is paid out. If there's a stroke, 100% is payable. If it is cancer, of course, whatever we have chosen is also payable as a whole, and so on to comma, and we can also vary the percentage of payment. I hope I'm still laudable.
Yes, very much so. We are listening.
Okay, thank you, Wale. So we just want to quickly go through the origin of critical illness. There are two reasons for this. Number one is to tell us that it's not too far, it's still within the century. Then secondly, where it was established, which is South Africa, we want to try as much as possible to juxtapose between the South African economy and, of course, the Nigerian economy. But where are we going exactly? The point is that if we look at the two countries, we can see that come to Nigeria, we say insurance is being sold as against being bought. So South Africa presents a feature of the Western world, meaning everybody goes, they know the importance of insurance, and of course, they go for it. Unlike here, that we have to still do a lot of awareness, and of course, we have to let people see reasons why they need it. And I think personally, it is high time we started to shift from an economy which is like insurance is sold to where insurance is bought. Let me give you an example where we can easily comprehend what I was trying to say between insurance being bought and insurance being sold. If you go to mobile or mobile phones market, we say that we can see that in Nigeria, they are being bought. Nobody forces us or need to go extra mile before we know that we need a mobile phone. So the same way we go out to buy mobile phones, should be the same pattern we should follow when it comes to insurance, especially when it has to do with insurance that has to do with our health condition. As a matter of fact, most times when I travel out of the country, most of our business partners I do come in contact with, they keep worrying, saying, how come I carry two phones? Two phones. Whereas you have a phone that could come with two SIMs. So I think it's more of the culture, and the response I do give them is that, look, mine is still better. I know some few people that carry 3 or 4 phones. You know, every service provider with his own phone. So just to digress, so what we are trying to say is that if we compare the mobile phone industry with the insurance sector, we realize that people tend to make the mobile phone industry to be bought as against being sold. So we need to change from that, pattern to make insurance our priority. And as such, it will be something that is now bought rather than being sold to all of us. So the first critical illness policy originally provided cover for were 4: the cancer, the stroke, heart attack, and of course, coronary bypass surgery. But now we have a list which is endless. They are more than what they started with. Just to let us know too that thank you, Wale, for that information. So just to let us know briefly, my time is, I don't have much time. So there is a product which we can say critical illness was tailored towards, which is called permanent health insurance. Otherwise, we can also call it income protection insurance. What does it do? It makes provision for the payment of an income, of course, in the form of weekly benefits whenever the insured person becomes disabled, either by way of sickness or accident, up to a great age of 65, which is supposed to be the retirement age. So all about PHI, that's the shortened form, is to serve as income replacement to the insured person in case of disability. And of course, the payment will continue to be made for as long as the disability or the sickness, lasts. Sorry, let me quickly go. These are other names upon which PHI can be known. Permanent disability, non-cancelable diseases, non-cancelable sicknesses, income protection, permanent sickness, and of course, continuous disability. Because of time factor, let me quickly go to some of the exclusions under PHI. Insurance is not to cover what is basically certain or as a result of self-inflicted injuries on the part of the insured person, self-indulgence in drugs. Generally, we also exclude things from war, riot and civil war, aviation, except the person is a fare-paying passenger. And of course, usually for female lives, most complications with pregnancy, childbirth are usually excluded. So let me quickly go to the Nigerian insurance market experience of critical illness. Mostly, it has been sold as a rider, especially to the group life. We now know that group life is compulsory in Nigeria. So we see aside the death benefit, which is the main cover of group life, we can have critical illness as a rider. But now, we've started seeing few insurance companies selling critical illness as a standalone, which is one of the objectives of coming online for this webinar. So we can now have critical illness as a standalone. Typically, this is how it is worded. It can pay out a lump sum of money when a short person is diagnosed with certain life-threatening conditions as contained in the policy document. Of course, we should also know that, as earlier said, the benefit can come in ranges from a lower limit to a maximum limit. The policy duration may also be in ranges. It could be for 2 years, could be for 1 year, could be for 10 years. Usually, medical examinations are only going to be required for values or benefits which are considered to be relatively high. These are the common critical illness conditions we can generally find in the Nigerian insurance market. Cancer, there is stroke, there is heart attack, and of course, up to coma. But the list may be more than this in some other cases. Just to give us a summary, I have 30 minutes to speak, and of course, I think I have just 2 more minutes left. So that's why I quickly want to cover the summary of the importance of critical illness insurance. Number one, there is financial protection. Once there is critical illness, it offers adequate financial protection. Because of the adequate financial protection, it will give us peace of mind. We don't pray for it, but do not forget, the general saying too is that the wise people will actually, they will have made provision for water before they become thirsty. And unfortunately, some of these critical illnesses, we may not be able to trace the causes to certain causes. So, for instance, cancer, you just hear someone has cancer. And what is the next thing to do is for us to be looking for a solution. These days, I've seen people coming through social media to solicit for help. And of course, the help may not come on time before the critical illness will go out of hand. But once there is critical illness insurance in place, you are sure that the financial protection is there. And of course, it gives you peace of mind. And of course, we can start early, treatment for that. There's also no need for us to depend so much on your employer or your children all over the place because you have made the provision for yourself. Lastly, as a fourth importance here is the fact that we have option to have flexible arrangements. In fact, the way it is, you can take critical illness insurance from more than one insurance company. Of course, all we need to do is just to make a disclosure of all the existing one that we have in place. So these are the summary in summary. I want to thank you all for your attention. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kolade, for that very enlightening presentation. I have no doubt that we've all been very informed by that, and we certainly look forward to asking you some questions as we try to appreciate it a lot more. Thank you so much for that. And before we get into the questions, we're going to simply transit now into a panel session. And so before that, I would like to take a moment to introduce our speakers for the panel session. And in no preferential order, I would go ahead to do so now. All right, first of all, we have a person that I can describe as a multifaceted individual. His name is Mr. Adekunle Desalu, widely known as Desa the Great. He's combining his role in Nollywood and the banking sector, if you like. Mr. Desalu brings a unique blend of creativity and financial acumen to this panel session. Starting with his professional journey with Globalcom Nigeria and later contributing significantly to the former Equatorial Trust Bank, he has led diverse teams and executed numerous projects. Desa the Great is not just, he has been involved in well over 78 movies and TV series he has about 78 movies and TV series under his belt. He is also a shrewd businessman, and I'm sure he will bring that entrepreneurial savviness to this conversation. We're great to have you, Desa the Great, Mr. Desalu. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Wale. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Good. All right. We also have joining us for this, Mr. Kehinde Grillo. He's the head of partnership at Coronation Life Assurance. He's a distinguished corporate leader with a rich tenure in the financial sector. His expertise spans the domains of relationship management, product development, sales, planning, and business development. As the head of partnerships, he plays a pivotal role in shaping collaborations that drive the accessibility and affordability of insurance. Kehinde, it's a pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you, Wale.
And we also have joining this panel session, Ms. Dr. Yomi Sule, a distinguished figure in healthcare management, technology, and financing. He's currently serving as the founder and managing director of Tilit MSME Microservices. He brings over 2 decades of experience to our conversation today. He has a unique blend of medical and business expertise. He holds an MBBS degree from the University of Ilorin and an MBA from Lagos Business School. But I think more significantly, he's currently enrolled in the SME Financing Certificate course at the Frankfurt School of Finance and Management in Germany. Dr. Sule, it's a pleasure to have you join us, and I'm sure you'll be giving us very, very valuable insight into how we can get these insurance services and products to those in the bottom of the pyramid. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Sule.
Thank you, Wale, and good afternoon, everyone.
All right, so let's get started. Quite a lot to unpack, in my opinion. I'm going to go back to our keynote speaker, if you can, sir. There are a couple of things and I want to be able to go into as much detail as possible so that for the benefit of our audience. So the first thing that I would like to just have you clarify is on the issue of access of critical illness to elderly people. You had mentioned some of these services and I want you to clarify that. It seems coverage is up to 65 years old. Now, what if somebody would like to make sure that he's still covered after 65 years? Can you just speak to that point very quickly before we go into other details?
Okay, thank you so much. I think all about that is we have a maximum age at 20. So otherwise, as medical experts will say, as you grow old too, age is usually associated with some form of health challenge. So we don't want really people who have seen that they are experiencing such challenges. And that is what is driving them to come for such critical illness. Besides, too, ideally, it is better for one to join while you are still very productive. You have the means to afford the payment of the premium, as against waiting till Number one, at that point in time, most people will have retired, and of course, you only have to rely on your pension. And do not forget, in pension, pension is expected to just keep you going, not basically to cater for some other expenses. So that is the main reason why there is usually age limit in terms of when one can join the scheme.
I hear you when you say that, but then again, of course, with the access to modern healthcare services, people can do checkups. We can actually validate whether or not the level of risk somebody is exposed to. So I would think that if we can check on all those details, and even if it's not a complete coverage that will be super expensive, in quotes, can't that person still have access? I would think that should be possible. Perhaps I could also take this question to Dr. Sule as well. Perhaps you want to chime in on this, because I know that you are clearly dealing with all kind of HMO plans. You would understand how sensitive this can be.
Thank you, Wally. Maybe also for context, I like to start by saying what is critical illness from the medical perspective.
Sure.
I thank Mr. Akolade for the definition and the presentation he's given. So a critical illness is really a medical condition that has low frequency or low incidence or low prevalence, as we say in medicine, but has a high impact in terms of morbidity, mortality, and also I will say the financial outcomes on the household or individual. And so what are the type of conditions that fall under this category? Again, Mr. Rashid has done a good job of enumerating them. Cancers, conditions like cardiovascular accidents, which we call heart attack, cerebrovascular accident, which we call stroke, major organ failures, which lead to organ transplant, like kidney failure, heart failure, which might require organ transplants, and also conditions that lead to coma and paralysis are conditions which fall under this category. Now, I will say theoretically, if we had a deep enough pool, especially with the advent of social health insurance, it is theoretically possible to cover everyone for critical illness. But what that means is that the burden is on taxpayers, or the burden ultimately is on all of us, but there is a tax pool. But we know that the challenge in the country at the moment is that the tax pool is not even deep enough to meet the fiscal requirements of government. Now, government has started lately with the National Health Insurance Act of 2022, I think, to socialize health insurance in the country. So perhaps long term, when that pool deepens, you can have people covered for life for these critical illnesses. But at the moment, no social health insurance scheme at the state or national level or private health insurance, private HMO has coverage for critical illnesses. It is usually procured as a rider or standalone product from life insurance companies.
Okay, thank you very much for clarifying that point. All right, let me go to Mr. Desalu right now. You are obviously someone that is very passionate about empowering young people. What advice would you offer to the youth regarding the importance of critical illness insurance? And maybe to some extent, you can also speak to your experience in this regard, if you have something to share.
Okay, thank you, Wale. Thank you, Mr. Kolade and Dr. Yomi for providing some context to what we are talking about. Before I talk about advice to the youth or how they should navigate this, one thing that continues to strike me is, and I like the fact that Mr. Kolade mentioned it, insurance in Nigeria generally is usually sold, right? Is hardly bought. And if you narrow it down to motor insurance, why is it always sold? Why is it never bought? So look at third-party insurance. I will give a very quick example. One day my driver was driving me, and then someone hit my car, and I got down, and the guy started to beg me. I just said, "Do you have third-party insurance?" He was scampering. I said, "Just give me your third-party insurance." He gave it to me. I took a picture of it. I took a picture of his license, and I drove off. The guy started chasing my car, was thanking me, and I said, "Come, you don't need to thank me. You have paid for what you have done. But then numerous people are in the pool of third party, right? But then they don't even know why they're doing third party. They just think that if they don't do it, police is going to stop me or someone is going to stop me on the road. But they don't know the benefit of what they've done. So what I'm saying right now is insurance, there's a lot more that we're still going to do. And thankfully, we have social media now. We have digital media that can help us to actually propagate what insurance really is for what it is and help everybody to understand the benefits of doing insurance. So now let me move back to health. It is so painful to hear when people go through a lot of stuff. First of all, people don't even understand their health system. They don't even know how to stay healthy. A lot of people struggle to stay healthy. A lot of people struggle to keep a decent lifestyle. And you almost can't blame them. A lot of people, their living conditions are not particularly good. But then I feel like what we need to do is we need to ramp up a lot of education, very social education. A lot of people have shied away from insurance. Even those that are educated, they've shied away from insurance, they've shied away from insurance schemes, either for life or for motor or for theft or for household items or anything like that, because they just feel, I'm just going to waste my money. These guys are just going to collect my money. But then until we start to help them to understand the benefits of it, they will not be able to appreciate the advantages it brings to them. My plea now is, and that's the reason why I was very excited when I heard about this session. I said, oh, definitely, I want to be a part of it. It's not enough to just say, the youth, this is how they need to start to live, or these are the things that they need to start to do. It is us meeting them halfway to say, look, I've tried this, it works. Rather than you need to get insurance. No, I'm saying to you that I've tried it, it actually works. This is what it's doing for me as a person. So as we go along, there's several other things that I want to speak about, but then I want to just, if you permit me, I want to say a few things about Mr. Kolade's presentation. He talked about...
Okay, if you can make it a bit brief so we can get to other things, but go ahead, please.
Yes, he talked about the premium, he talked about the cap. I think we might need to expatiate on those things. So for instance, like premium, is it flexible? Is it the payment for premium, is it flexible? Things like that. We need to talk about that. Then are there different premiums for different types of critical illness? You never know what type of critical illness you're going to have. God forbid. But then when I'm going to purchase it, am I saying, oh, I want to get critical illness for cancer, for this, for that? You need to then say, am I getting critical illness as a bouquet? Or, you know, I think that we need to give some clarity around that. It will help our audience as well. I'm going to stop now so that I don't take up all the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And certainly you've raised a very important point, which I imagine at the end of the day, since these payments are going to be out of pocket, at least for the premium, people need to appreciate the flexibility that they have. So certainly we're going to get to that question in a moment. But before that, I want to go to Mr. Grillo now. Thank you again for being part of this. And in a sense, it's still linked to the point that that has just been raised right now, and that is the issue of affordability. Can you very briefly discuss the affordability of critical care insurance and the options available to individuals?
Okay, thank you very much, Wole. And I'd like to really appreciate Dr. Akolade for that presentation. It was very insightful, even for me as well. I had to jot down a lot of new things I just learned today. So thank you very much. Now, going back to your question in terms of, is it affordable? I know a lot of people always assume that because of the sum assured, premium will definitely be expensive. And just like Mr. Desalu said, premium is what you're paying for that cover. And really, it's not. And the good thing about it is individuals have the opportunity to determine the level of coverage that they want. right? Just like Mr. Collett explained, there's a limit for the critical illness. You have a limit between 500,000 to 20 and to 30 million. What that means is you have an option, probably looking at what your pocket size is at the particular time, looking at what your financial strength is at the particular time. You can determine the level of cover that you want. So you're saying, okay, for right now, I'd just like to cover myself for an amount for some sort of 1 million naira, right? So you have access to pay for that amount. So you have the opportunity to decide what you want to call the level of coverage that you want. And of course, to make it easier, your premium payments, we also give the option of split payments. You don't have to pay at once. You don't have to pay the premium once. You have the option of paying bi-monthly, quarterly, in order to just help and assist you in paying this. So all this makes it very, very much affordable. It also gives the...
I'm so sorry to jump in. I think you've raised a very important point because you are speaking to the flexibility that's available here. So you just mentioned, for example, quarterly. So maybe you can just spend a moment to help us appreciate what that means. Because what I hear you saying is that if I make those quarterly payments, so I don't even have to make it every month, but as long as I'm making them quarterly, I am covered, and I'm covered to the sum insured. So maybe you can just speak to that point.
Okay, so like I said, what we're looking at is you have the option of making split payments. So normally premiums, as you know, insurance is an annual renewal agreement between us and individuals. So you have an option of saying, okay, look, I can't afford to pay the premium for the full year. I'd like to pay it in bits. So we say every quarter, let's say the sum insured is 100,000. Every quarter is divided by 4, and you're paying 25,000 every quarter. And for that period that you pay, you're actually covered for the full sum insured.
Right.
So once that expires, you pay for the other one. Before it expires, you pay for the other quarter, and so forth for the whole year.
Wonderful. I think that is so important to appreciate. Thank you so much for clarifying that point, because I think at the end of the day, some people may look at the big numbers and begin to think, just be and say, listen, I cannot afford to make this payment. And so I'm just going to have to deal with the issues if they ever come up. But what you are clearly saying here is that if we can have that discipline to even make quarterly payments, then we are covered for the total sum insured. So I think it's so important, as long as, of course, we are making those payments as and when due. But thank you so much for clarifying that point. All right. I always say that these events are for the audience. So I'm going to a large extent, prioritize the questions that are coming from our audience. And I know that some of them have already been addressed through the Q&A field by some of our speakers. But I would like to just go there briefly now to see what may be very, very insightful questions. So there is a question here about pre-existing conditions. So we heard a lot of that during the COVID-19 pandemic. But this is clearly a very important issue that may relate to critical health insurance. So maybe Dr. Sule, you want to take a stab at that. How do we contextualize the issue of pre-existing conditions? Because in a sense, we're saying that the risk is already quite high here.
So Wale, I don't know if I should answer as a medical person or I'll just pass the question to Kende, who works in underwriting. Sure. So I guess from an underwriting perspective, also you don't want a risk pool that consists of, people who are inclined to make a claim. And that largely is meant to also sort of ensure that the premiums are affordable. So you have what you call a sickness fund. A sickness fund is that you assume that there's going to be a large proportion of the people in that fund who are going to be sick. But most sickness funds, in my experience, are sponsored or borne by the states, national health schemes like the NHS, or the schemes in some Scandinavian countries. When you have a private risk pool, what you want to do is balance between doing good and also, of course, I don't want to say just making a profit, but also being able to make an impact. You don't want a situation where 1,000 people have, or maybe, 10,000 people have paid premiums, and then person number 200 has a critical illness and there are no funds because they've been spent on person number 20. So what insurers typically would do is that they would balance between doing good and also the affordability of the premiums. If you want to create a sickness fund, then the cost of the premium will be very high. So in order to make sure you're not creating a sickness fund, that it's a true risk pool or true insurance risk pool, you have to have some exclusions. And exclusions include pre-existing conditions. It also includes, for instance, soldiers who go to war. A soldier that goes to war, you're not going to be able to give him critical insurance cover because it's the risk that he will, be in a situation that is critical is very high. So yes, pre-existing conditions are real, and it's a universal principle associated with this type of insurance product.
Thank you very much. So what I heard from that is that the recourse that those who are dealing with pre-existing conditions have is to either government-related fund structures that address these issues, which I suspect, unfortunately, in the case of Nigeria, we may not have many options there, or that the insurance providers themselves have sort of organized things in a way that they can offer that coverage at a, perhaps I imagine, significantly higher cost in terms of premium. Maybe, did I summarize that well?
Yeah. Well, also maybe to mention that, for instance, you can't have stage 1 cancer and come and buy a critical insurance product. That essentially, like I said, again, goes back to what I was saying about the sickness fund. You can't have a stroke and then your children go and buy you critical health insurance scheme. It doesn't work that way. So you must be in a situation where you're not already diagnosed, or you're not already on that sort of path to having that critical incident before you are able to buy the product.
Understood. Thank you very much for that. Okay, by the way, I would like to appeal to our speakers, because I know, Mr. Kolade, I see your hand up, and I was actually coming to you in a second, but I want to just appeal to our speakers that, at least for now, perhaps you should hold off on answering the questions in the Q&A field, because we want to give the benefit to others who are listening in to be able to also learn from those questions and your responses. So thank you very much as you help us with that. So Mr. Kolade, I know you want to chime in here, but as you do so, there was a question that is sort of like a follow-up from your presentation. The person is saying that I overheard the presenter saying you can buy critical illness insurance policies in more than one insurance company, and all you need to do is to disclose this. So the person is now asking, in the case of a claim, what happens? Do you claim from both sides? Just to clarify that point.
Okay, thank you so much, Wale. I think I initially wanted to comment to put some other context into the pre-existing conditions. So the way insurance works generally is that you don't have what you want to insure against happening before you seek for insurance. As I earlier mentioned, the wise people will make provision for water before being thirsty. So it's not when you're now thirsty, then you're now looking around for water. So generally, pre-existing conditions are excluded from the critical illness condition. So it has to be fair, on both parties too. So if we allow that, what it means is that it is no longer insurance. So you just want people to become critically ill, then they come and get compensation, and that would defeat the purpose in which insurance is set up in the first instance. Now, the question they ask is real. So I'm trying to make it a bit simple so that I don't talk some of the technical terms. In the context of critical illness, we are looking at it from falling under life assurance. So we say in life assurance, there's a legal principle of insurance, which we refer to as contribution. So meaning, if you are allowed to take policies from more than one insurance companies, and when there's a claim or a claim crystallizes, all the companies you have taken it from them, they will pay according to the value or benefit you have with them. provided there is disclosure. So if you do not have the mind of defrauding the insurance companies, if you have one with company A and you are going to company B, then you disclose that you already have this amount with company A, so that they know that your intention is very clear. Just like if you travel, the issue of disclosure of currency, if you have more than $10,000 to travel with, if the source of the fund is legitimate, they are not saying you cannot travel with it, but you have to disclose that. So if you do not disclose that, that's where you have, a skeleton. I mean, you have a skeleton in the board.
Right.
So once you disclose that, then it's fine. And why do you need to take that option too? It may not be necessary, in the sense that if we are such that we are proactive, because the cost of treatment, as you know, generally these days, inflation is coming in every day. What you are able to buy today for X naira, when you go back to the market, even the same day in the evening, it is now X+1. So the same way, the cost of treatment for these conditions are also increasing from the hospital perspective. So if you have a benefit for 1,000 or 1 million naira last month, it is possible that the cost of treating the same ailment may have gone up the following month. So two things that will happen is either you are proactive to go and increase the benefits with the same insurance company you have earlier bought it from, or you go to another company to buy another one, or you are trying to do is just inflation not to make the purchasing power of money, useless in your hand when the critical illness crystallizes.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate your feedback on that question. I want to go to Mr. Grelo before, perhaps you can speak to this point. There's a question that says, I know insurance is about the pool of risk. Do we have enough of a pool for this standalone products? So I guess the question here is that, do we have enough people that are actually subscribing to critical health insurance? It's to the extent that we have sufficient enough pool to provide that support when that risk crystallizes for those who are participating in it. So please, can you speak to that?
Okay, thank you, Wally. Do we have enough pool? Well, we won't have created a product if we're looking at that. But yes, like insurance is a game of numbers. And for every company, you have your risk level that you also check out to ensure that, yes, what you are carrying on is something that you have cover for. And it's also regulatory wise. And yes, we might not have specific pool for critical illness, right?
Okay, so it's not specific.
Yes, if you understand what I'm saying, yes. So you have a pool of different other things that people are paying for that you can also use, yes. So yes, if you're saying that, do we have enough? Yes, we do. And of course, every insurance company is required to also check their own level as well to ensure that whatever risk they are carrying up on, they have enough funds to take up the claim.
Thank you very much for that response. Let me now go back to Mr. Desalu now. And you're an entrepreneur. You appreciate the risks that are associated with living, if you like. Maybe you can share your personal insight into how critical illness insurance can offer financial security in the event of a critical health diagnosis.
Okay, I'm going to speak from the point of view of an entrepreneur now. It's interesting because, especially in this part of the world, most people live for now, right? Basically, even, and I'm going to tread carefully now as I say this, even a lot of financial institutions, what we most times do is we want to understand what our profitability will be for this year, and maybe at the most do a 5-year projection. So you can then imagine, because everything revolves around your economic surrounding, right? So policies can change, everything can change within a political calendar, which is maximum 4 years. So everybody's almost leaving for now. It's interesting because I know that Dr. Kolade had mentioned that, yes, pension is basically for you to say, this is what I'm going to sustain myself with after I leave active service. For an entrepreneur, you don't even have that financial cover. You don't even have anything of that sort. Again, people struggle to understand things like savings, things like investment, things like wealth creation. So everybody's living in the now. Everybody's living, oh, let me make some money now. At best, they want to invest in something, maybe real estate or whatever it is. So generally speaking, people do not understand how to plan for the future, especially when it comes to their health. And speaking to all of us now, except for those that are now educated and understand it and know the importance of it. So this is coming at a very, very, very good time. For instance, if I look at entertainment industry, most people are not necessarily savvy when it comes to understanding how critical they need to take their health, how critical they need to take planning for their health or for the health of their family or relatives. So when things like this then happen, it becomes a rude shock because you then have to scamper and see how you can muscle out money or funds from what you have existing. So there's no plan for the future. There's no plan for on eventualities that can happen. So there are also a lot of funds, different things that have been created within the entertainment sector with the help of the government and the different bodies that we have within this space. But it's never nearly enough. There's so many other things that we need to do. So immediately I will say that we need to democratize this health insurance, if I can use that word loosely. What am I saying in essence?
Right.
How can I make this available in small packages for people? I'll speak for my sector, for people in entertainment, for entrepreneurs, that I can just buy it off the shelf. Good enough, we have a lot of digital embrace now in this country. So how easy is it for me to buy critical health insurance, for instance, off my phone? And I know that I can plan, I can pay in little bits, and I'm seeing the trajectory as it goes. And I see, oh, in so number of years, this is what I can have as sum insured that I can look up to in the future. We have AI. I personally decided to go take a master's in AI just because I felt that there's so many things that we need to do to improve different areas of this economy. So we need to then look for how we can make things available in small packages for people that are entrepreneurs and guys like us. That's what.
Great. And we'll get to that offering because I'm going to go to Dr. Sule shortly, but I want to come back to you briefly. And maybe because I think people connect very well with personal stories. Now, it may not necessarily be yourself, but maybe from what you've observed in the entertainment industry as an employee, what would be your message to those, or what have you observed, let me put it that way, in terms of the importance of getting critical illness insurance, perhaps from what you may have experienced yourself or someone close to you or somebody you know?
Okay, speaking personally now, for instance, I have, and I'm sure for those of us that might still have aged parents, I have an aged mother, and she's at a stage of her life where you can't determine what's going to happen. There's one pain, there's one ache or the other, and it then leads to one thing that requires a lot of money or a lot of funds. And it's not just funds that you must spend once. You continue to spend, right? So what I would say to everyone listening is you have to plan for that. You can't think that when that time comes, then you start to rally around funds for that. So it's something that you must deliberately start to plan for as you're getting older, or as your loved ones are getting older. You must plan for it. And interestingly, in this part of the world again, there's nothing like it's unfair to the aged, because you would see when it comes to HMO, there's so many denials for them. When it comes to now we're talking about critical health, and Dr. Akolade has already told us, please, we don't have a large pool that can accommodate these people. It's unfair, but then we have to find a way around it. The more we grow the pool, it will be easier for even the aged ones.
Thank you for that. Dr. Sule, I'm sure you are ready to go in terms of some responses to what Mr. Deselo has spoken to. But as you do that, I'm thinking about perhaps solutions, looking at some of the points he has made. We know, for example, that many employers provide life insurance as part of the package that they offer to their employees. Group life insurance is one. I want you to maybe speak to some of the, if possible, some of the smart thinking and innovative solutions that we can have to provide support for those who would like to have critical health insurance. If, for example, in the entertainment sector, the industry organizes some kind of pool that participants or practitioners can also contribute to, so that they can also benefit from that support. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts about that.
Thank you, Wally. So I'll start from the story part. I'm sure we're all aware there's an actor who is in the hospital at the moment, who has been soliciting funds. And yeah, unfortunately, even that process has been the source of controversy among the family members. I'm sure if he had critical health insurance, that will not be the case, and the funds will be properly managed with lots of more transparency. And if there were needs to recourse to donations, it will not be a huge, how do I put it now, major corner piece of sustaining his well-being and his life. So I don't want to mention names, but I'm sure we all know that story. I think that best illustrates to me the need for critical health insurance, especially for all of us. And I'm hoping that this Alu's community who shape the narrative amongst the youths and all Nigerians will really start looking into this. I know there have been a number of initiatives to deepen health insurance penetration among entertainers, but I don't think it's been sustained or done in a way that has really led to a lot of traction within that space. I think also if people in that space tell a lot of stories or sing songs about the value of health insurance, we have more Nigerians readily accepting it. So what has really worked? So I've been in this space now for about 16 years. I mean, just for disclosure as well, which you didn't mention, I worked in a major HMO for 9 years. And I left as head of operations. I was in charge of underwriting, product development, and customer support. So I do know a lot about this. And I've since gone on, outside that space to try and sell health insurance. What has worked is not trying to sell health insurance, really. It's, embedding health insurance or insurance in other products that people are not even aware that they're buying it, but they are being covered. So, if my employer is doing the right thing, I don't even know I have life insurance. I'm just covered for it. If I take the case of Ghana has almost 70 or 80% health insurance coverage. And that has happened because they have a 2.5%, which is paid as part of VAT. So when you are buying any product, once you're buying that product, 2.5% goes to the risk pool for health insurance. And I believe Ghana has coverage for cancers, for instance. So unless we start to thinking that way, and we're willing, so to speak, as individuals and as a community of people to pay more to government, or maybe to the private sector, like I said, with the case of life insurance, which I I don't know I have it, but I have it, so to speak. I mean, if I were not in management, I wouldn't know I have it. But
right.
That's the case. So the smart way is really to either government bundles it with existing taxes. Maybe the entertainment sector, for instance, when you're paying an actor, you make a deduction for withholding tax and VAT, and there is a sort of critical illness charge as part of the VAT contribution. Might go to government, might go to private sector, it doesn't matter, but we really need to figure out ways to, bundle insurance in general with other products so that people don't know that they are buying it, but they are paying for it, and it works. NHS that we talk a lot about, it's sustained by taxation. So what it means is that while it seems that nobody is paying for it, that it's free, but it's not free. People are being taxed for it, and if you're going there, if you're migrating there, I think you have to pay £1,000 for yourself and each of your beneficiaries, so to speak, to be covered for that year until you start getting into the tax pool. So there's a cost to this thing. It's never free in any country in the world. We have to be willing to contribute. Government has to be willing to collect as well. The best way to collect, in my own opinion, which we have seen has successful, whether in Ghana or in the UK, is for it to be embedded either as part of everyday payments, like VAT, or as part of withholding contributions from employees, so to speak. That's the only way for it to scale. In my own opinion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And clearly, that's the assignment of the advocates, for the actors, for the employees, and the general public, essentially, to see how best we can organize the collection of taxes, for example, to provide the pool of support for the broader public. Thank you so much. I think that's very, very valuable insight. But I'm coming back to you, and if you can give a fairly short answer to this because of time. This is also very important. We have low-income earners who I imagine may find it difficult to navigate the whole critical illness insurance topic. Something as simple as a medical test, for example, may be challenging. So perhaps you can speak to how we can address that. And then as you're doing that, perhaps you can also give us any insight if there are support systems that are available to individuals who are low-income earners so that they can find a way to benefit from this. One thing that comes to my mind is, for example, is there a support system to deliver medical tests, which obviously we know is the starting point for many to even benefit at all?
Thank you, Wally. So for a long period of time, health insurance penetration in Nigeria was at 3%. 3 million federal government workers covered by the National Health Insurance Scheme, and another 3 million employees in the private sector covered by the HMOs. But since the latest National Health Act was delivered and operationalized, we've seen a growth in the number of people insured, especially with the operationalization of what's called the Basic Healthcare Provision Fund. Now, I think close to 10 to 15% of Nigerians have health insurance in one form or the other. And a lot of that is due to the social health insurance schemes. Lagos State, for instance, has close to 1 million people enrolled. And a lot of those beneficiaries are enrolled under what is called the equity health contribution, which means that government, out of its own resources, is covering people who are identified to be poor. Now, there is a financing that comes from the federal government, 1% of all the consolidated revenue fund, which is shared among the states to cover the indigent or people who are low income. And that has also gone to support the states. I think roughly every year between 30 to 50,000 people per state are covered under this arrangement. States like Lagos State have gone over and beyond that to cover more indigent people. So these arrangements exist. Anybody in Lagos State or in any state of the country can consult with their own state contributed health insurance scheme to find out what arrangements exist and if they're still opening, so to speak, to accommodate those who are indigent. So under this arrangement, the medical tests are done, basic medical tests for wellness, like blood sugar and blood pressure. To be honest, those two tests will probably account or will probably help us know if you are on the track to having one of the conditions that predispose you to a lot of what might result in a critical incident or critical illness, like the actor I'm referring to who is hospitalized at the moment, I think he's diabetic. So diabetes and hypertension are two of the major risk issues for critical illness at the end of the day. With hypertension, you can have a stroke, you can have a heart attack. With diabetes, you can have renal failure, kidney failure, or even other conditions as well. And all it takes is blood sugar test and your blood pressure check, which a lot of this, in fact, I will not say a lot, all these state health insurance schemes cover. So I would strongly recommend, even if you're middle income or you are indigent, that you explore the social health insurance scheme in your state. I know there's a new director general of the NHIA. Just before he came on board, the old DG had inaugurated the operational guidelines for the National Health Insurance Act, which made social health insurance to be mandatory for everyone in the country and provided private health insurance with supplementary or complementary. So social health insurance is for all Nigerians, whether you're in the private or public sector, whether you're rich or whether you're poor. We should all get enrolled in it and take advantage of the benefits it has to offer, especially with the wellness checks.
Right. Thank you very much. Those wellness checks, I imagine, go a very long way in diagnosing, or should I say pre-diagnosing risk. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Now, let's talk about packages. Let me go to Mr. Grillo now. We've spoken quite a bit about the cost implications. We've spoken about how we can organize things as a community. Let's talk about what is possible now. So things like corporate packages, individual packages, for those who would like to benefit from critical illness coverage. Can you just speak to this for us?
Okay, so just like you had said, the critical illness, what we have currently, it's an individual package that you can buy off the shelf or anywhere. But for corporate entities, of course, there's opportunity for you to align critical illness as an extended coverage on other life insurance policies that you're enjoying. So like Dr. Kolade said, Pension Reform Act requires that every employer has to provide a group life policy for their staff. One of the things that can happen is under your group life policy, you could add critical illness as part of the additional coverage that you can have. So yes, it's supposed to extend. And of course, for one of the things we do also at Coronation is to establish partnership with other entities, other organizations and associations that makes this critical illness available to your network or your client base based on certain things that you want. So that's also possible, yes.
Thank you very much. Very valuable insight there. Let me go back now to the Q&A field to take a couple more questions from participants today. Okay, so someone is asking, in the event of insurance, okay, interesting point here. So recourse, in the event of an insurance company defaulting, which obviously has to be established because maybe Mr. Grillo, you will speak to this point. How will the insured get their claim issue resolved? So what recourse do people have?
Can we hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Go ahead, please. Yes, we can hear you.
So in case an insurance company should, am I correct? Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, should in case an insurance company should go bankrupt, how will an insurance be claimed? Of course, we have regulatory organizations that watch over, NICOM that watches over us, and we have the NICOM arbitration that actually will step into this to ensure that whatever situation it is, you get your money back. The same way we have the NDIC for banks that whenever a bank goes down, definitely then they have to file to sort out companies. So also NICOM, you can report to NICOM. Number one, if claim is not being paid, let's just assume an insurance company is not paying your claim, which is not as a result of bankruptcy, you can always report to NICOM, because the shine of any insurance company is the ability to pay claims. Right. So you can always report NICOM, always step in. And if an insurance company should fail, then you have to, the NICOM arbitration will also step in as well.
Got it. All right. Thank you for that. But I think also perhaps it would be useful for you to speak to this, because I think quite often when there are disputes relating to payments of claims by insurance companies, it could be a case of where a person has not met their side of the bargain. So can you just speak to that? Because I think that sometimes people will just get that root shock that I'm expecting a claim and I can't make that claim now.
Okay. Yeah, so I think I'll start with what the kind of example Mr. Desalu gave about the accident that occurred and the driver didn't understand what a third party is. I think awareness, number one, is a lot of things that people don't, when you get once you pay for insurance, a lot of people don't go to the policy document to see, okay, what are the things that are covered? What are my limits on certain things that I have? And I think that usually causes a lot of misunderstanding. And by the time you start to make your claim, then you now find out insurance companies say, oh, sorry, this is not included or this is not part of it. So education is one of the things that we tend to drive, especially when you're coming into insurance. When you take up a policy, go through the policy documents, understand everything you have been issued, understand what is covered and what is not covered. So in case the claim now occurs or materializes, you are well covered. You know the things to expect. So, and I think it's also there's a lot that also weighs on the insurance companies to try as much as possible to educate people when they're coming on board. So let them know, okay, for this policy, so for example, we're talking about pre-existing conditions. I'm trying to buy insurance, just go and I want to buy insurance, a critical illness. Am I covered for pre-existing condition? Those are the kind of things that we need to also take outside there, educate people to know these are your limits. These are things that are covered. I think someone spoke about the critical illness. Is it a bouquet of illnesses covered as one, or is it per certain illnesses? Those are the kind of things we need to inform people and educate people that when you're buying this, it covers this, and this. So we're not going outside. So that also will limit a lot of back and forth.
All right.
And like I also said, should you have any issue with any insurance company not paying claims, you can always report to NICOM. They'll step in and they'll step in.
All right. So this may sound hilarious, but a short answer to this, if you can, can I be covered for every single eventuality in terms of critical illness or illness in general? If hypothetically I can afford it, it hasn't been diagnosed. It will be diagnosed in 10 years. Give me that. Is that possible?
To be covered for all type of illnesses? Well, yes, it's possible. It's just, yes.
And how much is that going to cost me?
So for your premium, a lot of things is factored in while you're paying for your
Sorry to cut in. I guess maybe one way to answer this is that typically when you're considering critical illness, is the assessment of premium seen per disease? Is it assessed per disease, per eventuality, or is there some kind of universal coverage that can tick the box and say, listen, if you have this range of conditions or situations, you're covered?
Okay, so like I was trying to explain, yes, it's possible for you to have as much illnesses covered, right? It also depends on the product that is being launched. You can have everything, you can select some. But in terms of the pricing, it's priced together, right? It's not priced per illness, it's priced together, right? But certain things also determine the age of the individual coming on board, your current health status. Those are the kind of things that still go into to check what premium you'll be paid. But it's not like you are being charged per illness, okay, heart attack is this amount. No, everything's charged together.
And maybe another point, Dr. Sule, you can chime in on this as well. If, for example, I have this new health consciousness, I want to eat right, I want to exercise, how can that potentially change how much I would be spending on premium? Just out of interest. Dr. Sule.
In theory, you can say, well, not even that. I believe there are a couple of health insurance companies, especially in the US, who take into consideration your daily habits, so to speak, to be able to price your health insurance premium. So I think there's Lemonade. They check how many steps you walk in a day, and there's South Africa as well. I'm struggling to remember their name. Discovery in South Africa. So if you walk regularly, if you exercise regularly, if you eat well, your premiums will be risk adjusted based on your healthy habits. So in theory, that's doable. And in practice, as you all know, that will also require that there are new tools that are procured. But I think interestingly, I'm glad Desalu is studying AI right now. With AI in our smartphones, you can leverage that to be able to record the number of steps that are taken in a day and sort of what you're eating. Maybe when you're having a meal, you take a picture of your meal, and that some algorithm will work out, you know, whether you're eating healthy or not. So already that's been done. It's not theoretical, but I expect with the vast advances we're seeing in artificial intelligence, that this sort of algorithms become smarter and readily available. I suspect that sooner than later, it will also get to the Nigerian market, and maybe Coronation will pioneer that. So it's possible, it's been done, and I would love to see it in Nigeria. Yeah.
Okay, I can see Sadisalo clapping there. So challenge given, posed to Coronation and the broader insurance sector in Nigeria. Okay, I want to come back to Mr. Akolade now, and we have a question here that has to do with inflation. Maybe just to clarify that, what are the implications of inflation on the sum assured and any claims you would make in the future? Because as we know, inflation is running riot in quotes in Nigeria right now, and so people will be quite concerned about what I'm paying for now and what I can potentially get. And I guess just to add a little bit to that, how can I adjust for that? For example, does that mean I have to pay a little more in terms of my premium?
Okay, thank you, Wale. So, of course, everybody knows what inflation is all about. It's a situation where too much money we're buying fewer quantities of gold. So there are two ways. Insurance, it can come from the part of the insurance company to say, hey, this is what is happening, and morally, they can advise the clients to be proactive, that the way things are going, especially now what we are experiencing globally, with reference to Nigeria, the inflation is relatively high. So the best thing they could advise is let them come and review their values. That's the benefit upward. Of course, when you move your benefit upward, there will be a corresponding premium to be paid. If you look at it from the way we started it, is in ranges, 500,000, let's say 20 million naira. So let's assume that age remains constant for two persons and every other thing remains constant. Someone who is going to get a benefit of 500,000, ideally, will pay lower than someone who is going to get 10 million naira benefit. So that means that if the person getting 500,000 is revising upward his benefit to say 2 million, so there will be incremental cost to him, but not something that will not be affordable. In the whole sense of it, premium payable is this small proportion compared to the potential benefit. So we are not looking at, you are buying a cover of 10 million, you are going to pay $1 million. It's not something that is up to 10%, you know, of what the benefit you are subscribing to. Every company prices based on their own some assumptions. So for Coronation, I'm sure too, it's not something, I mean, generally speaking now, from critical illnesses I've seen, the premium is not as high as people think. But I think the major issue is that there is no adequate awareness, you know, for people to know that these things happen and they can get it cheaply. So in summary, it's possible to make provision when there's inflation for you to revise upward your benefit. As a matter of fact, we have some policies which are inflation linked. So meaning, you know, as inflation changes,
yes,
the factor, the incremental rates of the inflation from one year to the other, or on monthly basis or quarterly basis, can automatically be applied to the benefit. And as such, the premium payable will also be calculated and the person will pay up the balance.
All right. Thank you so much for that response. And I want to say thank you to all our panelists for giving very insightful and engaging feedback to all the questions that have been posed. I do know that we have some questions that haven't been taken yet. Oh, Mr. Grillo, do you want to say something? I can see that.
Yes, just to add to
very briefly, please.
Yes, just add to Mr. Akolade. You know, for a premium of 10 million, for a cover of 10 million, you can pay as low as 10,000 naira in premium.
Right. So just to clarify that, 10,000, do you mean monthly? Do you mean quarterly, annually? Just to be clear.
Annually.
Annually.
So you see, it's very, very cheap.
Very
Did you
cheap
see annually?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, annually.
Okay.
That's what
Yes,
it says.
annually.
So with 10,000, you can get 10 million coverage. If you pay 10,000 per year, you can get 10 million coverage. I think that that is something that people should consider. That is something to investigate, given what we know about the cost of medical expenses in this country, the impact of inflation on those costs. I think for that reason alone, people should pause to think about what that could mean in terms of financial freedom. All right, thank you so much for that. I think it's a very, very useful insight that you have provided as we begin to wrap up this panel conversation. I want to thank all our panelists for their engagement up to this point. And as I invite the head of claims at Coronation Life to deliver some closing remarks, I want to also now appeal to our panelists to now go back to the Q&A field and to perhaps, if you can, answer any questions that are outstanding. I have looked through, many of them to some extent have been addressed. Some are more specific in terms of insight into specific situations. I'm sure our panelists are more than capable to deliver those insights. So on that note, I want to say thank you to our panelists and welcome now the head of claims at Coronation Life Assurance, Oluwatosin Ajiniro, to deliver some closing comments.
Thank you, Wale. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It has been an engaging session and we've had a lot to learn from. On behalf of Coronation Life Assurance Limited, we extend our heartfelt gratitude to all of you for attending and participating in this webinar titled Safeguarding Your Health, the Importance of Critical Illness Insurance. Your presence and engagement have made this event a huge success. We have been privileged to have an exceptional panel of experts who have generously shared their insights, experiences, in making this webinar an invaluable source of information for all of us. To our distinguished speakers, panelists, and moderators, we say thank you. Your dedication to sharing your wealth of knowledge is truly appreciated. Your willingness to share your knowledge and experience will undoubtedly empower countless individuals on this call who make informed decisions about health and insurance coverage. We also wish to express our gratitude to our wonderful audience who have taken out time from their busy schedule to join this session. We say thank you. Your participation has certainly added depth and meaning to today's discussions. Your interest in safeguarding your health is a testament to your commitment to personal well-being. Coronation Life Assurance Limited is proud to host this webinar, and we remain dedicated to our mission of helping individuals, corporate bodies, and families secure their financial future through comprehensive insurance solutions. We are committed to providing highest level of service and support to our clients at all times. As we conclude today's event, we urge you to take the knowledge and insights gained here and use them to take proactive steps in safeguarding your health and financial well-being. We all know that health is wealth. Remember, your health is your most valuable asset, and insurance can be a crucial tool in preserving it. In the days to come, the recording of this webinar will be available on our YouTube channel, so you can revisit the essential discussions at your convenience. Thank you all for being a part of Coronation's transformative journey. We look forward to a continued partnership and encouraging and ensuring we continue to provide best-in-class service for financial and insurance needs. We sincerely appreciate you. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you very much, Oluwatosin Ajiniro, for that charge that you have given to all of us as we close out today's event. Many thanks again to Coronation Life for putting this together. And as you can see now, we have the contact information of Mr. Kehinde Grillo, Head of Partnership at Coronation Life Assurance, on the screen now. Please take advantage of all the knowledge that you have gained in today's webinar. I do believe it's been valuable. I really, really I'm inspired by that last comment by Mr. Grillo, where he said with 10,000 naira, you can get 10 million coverage. 10,000 naira a year. That will not even fill up your, it won't give you a quarter tank of fuel right now. So think about that. It's something that can change your life, change your family's experience financially, if in the unfortunate event that there is a critical illness in your vicinity. Even if that is not the final amount that you will be paying, I think that information alone should give you a reason to contact Mr. Grillo this afternoon. So I want to say thank you again to everyone for being part of this. Thank you to our audience. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to Coronation Live. And we look forward to having you at the next event. Cheers.